We do have two products. We have a product in-house, and we have a brokered product. So in-house just means that our underwriters are the people that are underwriting it, and we're closing it, working it from start to finish. The brokered loan just means that we don't necessarily have that product in-house, or the broker can do a little bit more that we cannot do. So therefore, we send it to them. It's their underwriter underwriting it, and their closer is closing it. But I'm still involved in the file from start to finish, and it does close in our name. But they're going to be handling the servicing and all of that, jazz. So just wanted to go over the in-house product first. We do have a conventional 5% down, an FHA 3.5% down, and a VA 0% down. So we can do manufacturing in-house on all those products. The really big difference between the in-house product and the broker product is that we will require a 660 minimum credit score on all those conventional FHA and VA, versus the broker product can go down to 620. And that broker product is FHA only. They don't do VA, they don't do conventional manufactured housing. So for both products, this has to be a primary residence. It cannot be a second home. It cannot be an investment property. None of that. The borrower has to certify that he or she will occupy that property as a primary residence. So you will have monthly mortgage insurance or private mortgage insurance depending on the product. And just you might want to write a note in there. VA does not have mortgage insurance. So those are only going to be applicable to conventional and FHA. Conventional has private mortgage insurance, and FHA has monthly mortgage insurance. Our in-house product is not going to accept gifted funds. Both conventional and FHA normal products accept gifted funds. And VA also accepts gifted funds, but for manufactured housing, this particular product is not going to accept the borrower receiving any gifted funds for their down payment or closing costs. They're also not going to accept a non-occupant co-borrower.
Just slow down for 1 second. The gifted funds, now that is not to say that sellers are still allowed to participate with buyer closing costs if there's an agreement.
Absolutely. Those are called seller concessions, and that's completely different from gifted funds. Gifted funds is when a family friend or maybe a parent gives that, the borrower their 3.5% for down payment or their 5% for down payment. That's not going to be allowed in manufactured housing, although it is allowed in the other, normal housing. So this, you just have to think that this is specific only to manufactured homes. They're not going to accept a non-occupant co-borrower. FHA, the normal product, will accept somebody to not occupy the house and co-borrow, be part of the application, use their income and credit. For manufactured housing, it's not acceptable. The in-house product is only for double wides. So if you do have a single wide out there, the in-house product is not going to allow that. So you do have to make sure that your property is a double wide. I have seen some single wides that have had additions, so it looks like a double wide, but we're going to be talking about hut plates right now, which will give you that information, and we'll certify that the house is a double. So just, when you're out in the field, you just want to watch out for that, because there's a couple of those single wides that have been added to. The age of the property in our in-house product, it has to be built after 1976 and be at least a year old. If it's under a year of age, it's not going to be qualified. And the property for FHA and VA, it cannot have more than 10 acres. And then the property for the conventional product, it cannot have more than 15 acres for the property. And just a really important thing to note there is the land value cannot be more than 35% of the total property value. So as you're doing your comps, you do want to check, especially if you come across a manufactured house that has 7, 9, 10 acres, the more acreage, you want to make sure you know how much your acreage is worth versus how much you're selling the whole property for. So you do have to have a 35% ratio.
How reliable is it to have an agent look in the CRS tax records and see the property tax assessor's estimate of land value? Because they separate it by land and then also improvements. Is that pretty reliable to determine the 35%?
I mean, I would still look at other comps.
Okay.
You want to try to find comps that also have land, or just want to try to figure out how much
Right.
the land is worth.
Yeah.
You can use that as a base guideline, but if it's close, if it's really, really close, you definitely want to dig more into it.
Okay.
So on the broker loan, which is the one that we're sending out to a different underwriter, not our underwriters, you have an FHA only product. You have a 3.5% down payment. It's on a 30-year fixed only. It requires a 620 minimum credit score. It has to be, again, only a primary residence. It will have the FHA monthly mortgage insurance applied to it. This product it's a little more, it accepts a lot more things. So you will be accepted for gifted funds will be accepted, and you will accept a non-occupant co-borrower. Now they do double wides. They do look at single wides, but that is only on a case-by-case basis. They don't accept all single wides. So their big thing with single wides is that it has to have 2 really good comps. And when you look at comps, you definitely want to make sure that they are single wide comps. So I recently had an agent that was looking at comps, and she found 2 really good manufacturer comps, but they were both double wide. So that got denied because that, and we denied it up front because it did not have any other single wide comps. So that's kind of
how far out? We may be going a little too fast, but how far out is the appraiser for the FHA manufactured house requirement for getting 2 single wide? Did they go out to maybe 10 or 12 miles?
They do. They
Okay.
do because they understand that manufactured housing is going to be harder to comp.
Okay.
So they will accept, I believe they've accepted up to 15 miles.
Okay.
Radius. So you just want to pick point your property and just do a radius of 15 miles, and that's,
Will they also give us some latitude on the time span? Will they allow to go up to a year or even further potentially?
They do. They usually want no older than 12 months.
Okay.
So usually your normal ones is 6 miles away in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But for manufacturer, they will go ahead and expand it a little bit. So a really important thing to know about manufactured housing, and I don't know if you guys know the difference between a guideline and an overlay, but a guideline is something that the agency set forward. The agencies meaning Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and Ginnie Mae, right? Those are the agencies. So they set forth guidelines for lenders. But an overlay is what the lender will and will not accept, what kind of risk they're willing to take. So they take the guideline from the agency and they say, we're just going to go ahead and instead of accepting the 620 minimum credit score on FHA, we're going to bump it up to 660. And that's the maximum the maximum risk we're going to take on manufactured housing. A lot of the guidelines for these, for Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie do accept single wides, but investors don't like single wides. So then therefore they can set their own boundaries on what risk they will and will not accept for that. Okay?
Can I ask you a question really quick? I recently ran into an interesting situation where I was trying to write a contract on a house that was a double wide manufactured home that had already been moved once, maybe even twice. And my people were having issues finding a place that would be willing to actually go into a loan with them because of the foundation worries and such. Mm-hmm. Just from your experience, what do you think about that? Is Fairway capable of looking at that and handling that, or is that one of those situations where you hear and you're like,
That's really a title issue, and that has to do with the property not being properly titled to the land. Okay. So if you look down here, I kind of put that tidbit for you guys as well, to go ahead and make sure that the title, that the land in the double wide is titled as real estate property. So in order for the basic guideline for both of these products is that the house does have to be set on a permanent foundation in the property. That means that the windows need to be removed. There's a very strict guideline that FHA goes by, and that all the products go by. Conventional VA, FHA, they all use the FHA standard for the permanent foundation. So certain things that the house, when it was moved, those things have to be removed. It has to be set on good permanent foundation. It doesn't matter if it has brick or skirting surrounding, as long as the permanent foundation is good and solid. And it also has to be hooked up to either private water and septic or public water and septic, sewer and whatnot. So it can have a septic tank, or it can just be connected to the normal city provided sewer system. So the problem that you're going to have with that property being moved, is going to be a title issue.
Okay.
So if you do think, that's an excellent question to ask the listing agent. And if you are listing a property like this, you need to ask your buyer, has this mobile house been moved other than from the manufacturer to the land? Because you're going to run into a lot of title issues.
Okay, gotcha.
So you can also have your title company check. They can run a quick search for you on that specific property, and they can tell you if the title is, if the previous title, when they previously closed, was favorable.
Right.
I've got a quick question, since there's not many of us in here. The 35% land value, does that apply on brokered also?
Yes, it does. Yeah. It does. They're going to have that requirement. I ran into a situation where the property had 15 acres, and what they were able to do is they were able to parcel off the land and leave 5 acres with the property, and then sell the remaining of the land for another value. Or I think we were able to comp out still, and they sold the remainder acreage for $1. They did a transactional for $1, but they were still able to get the double wide manufactured housing with the 5 acreage.
I'm sure you're going to cover this, but might give them the tips on where they could find the manufacturing stamp, that they get some information that's going to be required, and also for comp, they're not familiar with the fact that the valuation of the housing, they're used to, it's kind of like a Kelly Blue Book age of that, and who manufacturer was. You might want to cover those kind of things.
Exactly. So as far as the comps for your property, the newer the property is, the more favorable it is. You're going to notice right here on the broker loan, they do have an overlay right here that says they don't want houses that are older than 15 years of age. And that's on that broker product. The normal product, the in-house product, accepts, houses that are no older than 1976, built after 1976 up to a year old. So they cover that. Let's go back to the HUD tags. So I have right here in front what a HUD tag looks like. This is the HUD tag, or it's also called the certificate label. So in your property, as you're walking through it, this is going to be on the outside of the property. It's going to be, usually it's around a corner, on the edge of the property. It has to be properly bolted, or what HUD says is that they have to have 4 really nice big bolts on each corner. If the seller has taken it off because they don't like how it looks, it's called defacing it. So if it's been defaced and you can't find it on the outside of the property, you do have to have a certification. So the 2 things that you have to look for is you have to look for a data plate and HUD tag, and you have to look for the data. I'm sorry, going back. The data plate, oddly enough, is the 8x11 sheet of paper that you will find either in the cabinet or in the closet door inside of the property. And that is the data plate. I don't know why they call it the data plate, because it's more like a certificate, but the one that you're going to find outside is called a HUD tag. So I placed a little link right here at the bottom, and I'd be happy to text that or email that to you for easier purposes of accessing this. But it'll tell you every single piece of information that both of these documents carry. Now, if the property has been defaced, if the tag has been removed, or if the data plate has been removed, you can get copies of it, and we just have to order them. If you want to order them on a regular business, which is 10 business days, it's going to cost you $150. And if you want them on urgent delivery, they're going to cost you $225. So if you're listing a property like this and you've noticed that your seller has removed these, it might be a good idea for you to ask your seller to go ahead and order those. Because anybody that's gonna, buy this property, the, appraiser is gonna note that it does not have these items and they're going to require it. So it just might be a good idea for y'all to be proactive with this. The other thing that you're gonna see is the engineer cert. So that's where it comes back to the permanent foundation being in the property. So the engineer cert runs you about $360, runs your client, about $360. The engineer needs to go out to the property and make sure that the property is on good foundation, permanently affixed to the ground, and that the foundation hasn't moved or any sort of, that pretty much is still in good foundation. Sometimes we've seen the foundation or the land, depending on where it is, just kind of crack the foundation, and then that needs to be repaired. So the certificate just basically says, yes, the foundation is still in very good standing, and it passes the inspection. So it is both products are going to require that. Every lender is going to require that cert. If your seller has a copy of the cert when they purchase a house, they can go ahead and use that.
How long is that good for?
Usually it's just up to the underwriter's discretion. I've seen them take a 10-year-old cert. It just really depends. It's really, really just up to the underwriter's discretion. And of course, the appraiser is going to give a recommendation to whether he believes that it needs one or not. If the underwriter doesn't have a guide on that. But we can use those. I mean, it's worth taking a shot just if your seller has it, turning it in and see if we can save the buyer $360.
Is there, let's say there's cracks that the engineer has discovered and it requires them to be corrected, repaired, is there another fee for a revisit like you typically have for a FHA revisit on appraisal kind of stuff?
Yes, there will be another fee for a revisit because they have to turn back in a good certification letter.
Mm-hmm.
So the certification letter has stipulations in it.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to go back out just like the appraiser would.
Any idea what charge that would be? I think typically it's like 85. Okay.
It really depends on the different companies that that the engineers work for.
Okay.
So they all kind of have different fees, but probably no more than $150 to come back. And then you also have a well water and septic inspection required on all manufactured housing products, both of these that we have. So if you do have a well in the property, even if it's connected to normal water, that well water will need to be tested. I've ran into that before, to where the underwriter had requested for that well water to be tested, just in case the bar was to ever use it. They don't want them getting sick or anything like that. So that would be like a safety and health hazard. And the septic inspection too, if the manufactured home has a septic underneath it, it will need to be tested, and we need to get a letter saying that septic is in good working order. If your seller has a septic letter that is within the 10 years of age, they might accept it. And once again, it's up to underwriter's discretion. But if you're listing a manufactured home property, these are some of the things that you need to walk through the property and look for. Because the more proactive that you guys can be listing this property or looking at this property with your buyer, the better chance you're going to give the lender for everything to go smoothly. Pretty much what I always say is you guys are our eyes and ears in the field. And a lot of the information that you gather up front, don't be afraid to share it with your lender. Sharing it is definitely going to get rid of a lot of time.
Let me take this call just a second.
Any questions on manufactured housing? No? So we're just going to go to the Home Ready Fannie Mae product. So Fannie Mae just released about 3 months ago this new 3% down product. They're calling it the Home Ready. So there's a lot of really good things about this product that are completely different from any other product that's out there, and specifically conventional. Conventional does have a 3% down product, but this actually it opens up the door to so many more people that were not able to purchase with that conventional product, the 3% that's out there. So the really big thing about this one is that it's both for first-time home buyers and repeat home buyers. So the normal 3% down conventional product is only for first home buyers. But this one is opening the door to people that have already owned a home and just want to sell that and purchase another one. They can come in under a 3% product, which is really good. It will accept a non-occupant co-borrower, if you are going to have a non-occupant co-borrower to use their income for qualifying purposes, then you will need to do 5% instead. So that's the only restriction on that. The income from a household member who's not a borrower will be considered. So pretty much right now we're seeing a lot of multi-generational families living in a household. You're going to have a lot of kids now that are living with their parents because, you know, the job market is tough. So, or you're going to have a lot of maybe people living together that are not married. So non-joint tenants that have decided to live together. So you will have that. So if you're in any type of that situation, that other person's income, even if they're not on the loan, their income is allowed to be used as a compensating factor to allow for a higher debt-to-income ratio. So conventional has always been really, really strict to not allow more than a 45% debt-to-income ratio. But with you having that person helping you and acknowledging that in the application, even if their credit is not being used, it allows for the client to go up to a 50% debt-to-income ratio. So it really gives them a really big chance to purchase more of a house without having to have that person's credit being checked. So a way that they can use this is, let's say, boyfriend and girlfriend. Girlfriend wants to buy the house, boyfriend works, but his credit is really bad, so she's forced to just use, you know, her credit for the application, and she might not want to have the boyfriend purchase with her, just in case. So in this case, she's able to submit her application, but say, I do have my boyfriend that lives with me, and, you know, he makes this much amount of money, and we're able to use his income as a compensating factor for her to allow her to buy more.
I've got a client right now that she's trying to get her credit score built up. They just got married. He was in bankruptcy 2 years ago. Now, could she buy just on hers and use this program? And even though he's her husband now, use him just as the co-borrower and not be on the title?
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't be a co-borrower. We would just be using this program, and his income would be used as a compensating factor.
So, but it would just have to be in her name.
Yeah, everything's just in her name. He would not be attaching any means to the property. He would just be a compensating factor.
Yeah.
If we can call it that. So, it also allows additional income and rental payments. So, let's just say that I live with my parents and I've been renting from my parents for the past 2 years. So I give my parent $500 to rent a room or just to help out, right? So if my parent says, I've been receiving this much money from my son or daughter, and if we can document at least 12 months of that rental income receipt, then when the parent tries to get a loan for a new house, they can actually say, my daughter is going to continue to live with me and continue to pay me $500 in rent. So as long as that 12-month documentation is there for previous, that $500 could be counted as continuing income for the new application. So that's really huge, especially when we're dealing with a situation, maybe the sisters are living together, one of the sisters holds the contract to the apartment, but the other sister's paying her $700, you know, and we're seeing a lot more of that, and that's why this program is so great, because it really looks outside of the box to try to add more income to the household, because they do know that income exists. It's just a way to include it.
Well, I mean, I'm thrilled by it just because these people I'm talking about, they just got married. He had bankruptcy. She didn't know it. They go buy a house. They're not eligible under any other program, but based on what you're saying, they would be eligible to buy it under her name and still count his income under this program without him having the background credit check, if I'm understanding that right.
And just to look at the bankruptcy too, a Chapter 7 could be eligible after 2 years on certain programs.
That's what he's in, but he's still within the 2 years.
He's within the 2 years, okay.
Yes.
So after he meets that 2-year requirement, that he will be eligible.
Yeah, they're newlyweds.
This program is subject to area income eligibility. So it's similar to the USDA. I don't know if y'all have done USDA before, but USDA does have areas that do qualify. This program is specific. Every area qualifies. Just different areas have different income eligibilities. They have different maximum incomes. It's really easy to check. I put a little link right there for you guys at the bottom. If you go to that link, you can just put in the property address and then it'll come out and it'll say this is the maximum income limit. Now, the cool thing about this is, let's say we have a wife and a husband, and the wife is going to be the only one on the loan, and the husband makes really good chunk of money, and maybe the wife makes half of his income, but she's the only one going to be on the loan. The husband's and wife's income does not get put together to reach that income limit. The husband does not get looked at. So the only income limit that will qualify is the borrower's income. So now, unless we're using the husband as a compensating factor, then that could get looked at, but that's up to the underwriter's discretion. But if it's a non-occupant spouse or non-occupant, if it is a spouse or anybody else in the household that has an income, their income does not get considered for that limit. So that's vastly different from USDA, because USDA looks at everybody in the household, even if they're not on the application, and considers that for the limit. This one doesn't. So this one really opens the door to maybe people that were not able to qualify under USDA because of that income limit. But if they can put together the 3% down payment, they can qualify under this one. And none of, it's just it's a lot more lenient on that. The minimum credit score is a 620 credit score. That's huge for conventional, and I'll tell you guys why. Conventional really looks at the credit score as far as pricing for their interest rates. So the lower credit score that you have on conventional, the higher interest rate that you're going to get. And that's just because of the risk factor on a conventional mortgage. For this particular loan product, the credit score gets protected under this product, so it doesn't hit them as hard. There's very, very little hits, and I recently locked one of these. The guy had like a 622 credit score, and their interest rate was a 3.875. That's huge, because if I had him on a regular conventional product, his interest rate would be close to like a 4.5. So 3.875 to 4.5 makes a really big difference. So I like this conventional product because of that, because it's not penalizing people for their credit score. It's giving them more of an opportunity to not only use other income, but also to have a better interest rate and not, penalize them for that. Then it also offers reduced private mortgage insurance. So conventional product has what's called private mortgage insurance, or PMI. And usually at a 5% down payment or 3% down payment, normal conventional product, it's going to require for them to have a 35% coverage. So the coverage percentage is what the private mortgage insurance company has to cover them at. But this particular program allows them to use 25% or less based on their underwriting findings. So we run automated DU findings, and if that tells us, hey, this client has a really good credit score and we think their risk would be 17%, then we can go in, their mortgage insurance is vastly reduced versus the normal product. The other cool thing about that is that Radian, which is one of the private mortgage insurance companies, they're doing a product for this particular one that they give them a 2-year jobless income coverage. So pretty much, if we use Radian in combination with this, the borrower will be covered for 2 years as an extra insurance. So if they lose their income, a certain percentage of their income will be subsidized by the mortgage insurance company, and that payment will go directly to the mortgage company. So it's in a way for them not to get so behind while they're trying to establish themselves in the job market again. So in order for them to use this protection, they had to have been laid off or fired, so they have to be eligible for unemployment benefits. They have to show documentation that they are receiving unemployment benefits. So they'll give them usually up to a 50% recovery on their income loss. That's how much they'll give them. So if somebody's making $1,000 every month, they'll give them $500, and those $500 go directly to their mortgage payment, so they don't get so behind. So they're just helping out make that partial mortgage payment. Any questions about this product? No?
You did a great job explaining it.
No, I've asked them as you went along, so I don't have any.
I mean, it's a great product because it allows so many little things that you can do with it, and it's just so much better. If a client's looking for a conventional mortgage, I always offer a 3% down product. And if they meet the guidelines for this product, they're going to fit better in here. Because if I put them on the normal conventional 3% down product, and their credit is not that favorable, they're going to have a really, really big hit on their credit. So it's really important that us as lenders, we're looking at the client and we're looking at what product is going to fit them best for them to get the best interest rate and the best coverage, and what they need. So I've had a lot of FHA clients that have moved to this conventional product, and the big sell on that is that if you're going to have this house for however many years you have it, you're going to have the mortgage insurance with FHA. But for the conventional product, when you reach that loan to value, it drops. So it's huge, and it's replacing a lot of FHA mortgages.
Is this eligible for manufacturer?
No, they don't do manufacturer on this. So the other thing that I do want to point out here for you guys for this product is that it does do non-traditional credit. So a lot of lenders will say, these are minimum credit score requirements, and if your client does not have a credit score, then they're not qualifiable. Well, that's their overlay. But Fannie Mae does allow clients to qualify with 0 credit score. So if I pull a credit and I see that they have nothing positive, nothing negative, maybe they could have had 2 things negative, but they're showing a 0 credit score, I can still get that client into a home with alternate trade lines. So they're going to be looking at housing history, like rental payments, utility payments. It could even be if they're paying a gym membership and they've been paying that on time for the last 12 months, we can use that. So we can use a series of alternate credit trade lines for people that do not show a credit score. And that just comes as Fannie Mae opened that up because they understand that people are afraid to get credit now. A lot of people don't want to get credit. They just want to pay everything cash, or they just want to pay everything for what they have. And it's really unfair to not be able to lend to those people that have had otherwise an excellent payment history, and then they just really don't want to participate in the credit, the normal credit requirements and getting credit cards and a lot of jazz. So this program does allow them to do that as well. So zero credit score borrowers are okay.
Can I jump back one time, getting back to the manufactured housing, the definition of permanent foundation. FHA has the guidelines. You gave one example. What other criterion? Obviously, the tongue needs to be removed. Years ago, I remember there was even a requirement on the type of roof on manufactured housing, but I haven't seen that recently.
Yeah, I believe that got removed, and a lot of what you guys also need to know about financing, especially if you start in the business or you've been in the business for a long time, is that with financing, things always are changing. So you always need to be checking, hey, is this still not allowed, or is it allowed now? Because they're always moving, and it's really based on the risk. So they don't have that. The roof
Okay.
anymore. Both conventional VA and FHA follow the restrictions for the manufacturer base, the foundation. So they're going to be looking at the foundation to be acceptable by FHA standards, which is HUD standards.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So if you guys want to get like a complete, there's a booklet that I can send you, that I can email you, that really shows you even like drawings and pictures of what an acceptable foundation looks like. I mean, if you're the type of person that wants to get underneath there and check it out, you can
I don't think,
definitely use it.
if it's going to be a 100-page booklet, I'd say no. But if you have some
About
kind of
15 pages.
a snapshot, right?
Yeah, it's about 15 pages, or I can cut and paste different little things that you might want to look for.
Maybe something like that.
But,
Just something that would give some guidance, not for us to be an expert, but
Yeah.
to kind of determine if there's going to be an issue or not, and
Yeah.
save a lot of time for everybody. That's kind of what I'm.
Exactly, yeah.
Also, as the now an FHA manufactured housing loan is not, if there is a flood zone or flood insurance is required, I think that's still allowable for loan purposes on this kind of property too, right?
But all of them, conventional VA and FHA, will accept, a flood insurance.
Yes.
So if your land is a flood insurance, and if it is going to touch the property,
Yeah.
then normal standards apply. Now, if the property is elevated and you can show that through an elevation certificate, you should be able to get that with the county, then we can use that elevation certificate to get out of having to purchase flood insurance. But the flood insurance, will apply.
That's something to keep in mind because, again, there's some homeowner insurance companies that if just 1 foot of the back property line is in a flood zone, they're going to require it. Whereas, as you pointed out, some take a more reasonable approach. They look at the elevation. If the residence is so much higher, then they would not necessarily require it. So it's good to know that.
Yeah, and that comes back to, is it an overlay or is it a guideline?
Mm-hmm.
So a guideline is set forth by the agencies, and the agencies say, yeah, we will go ahead on a property, even a manufactured house, we'll allow for it to have flood insurance if it meets these requirements, or, if we can get it properly insured, or get an elevation certificate. That's a guideline. An overlay would be if the lender says, you know what, we're not going to allow this, or, our requirement is that if the property cannot touch a foot of it and be in the flood zone. So that's an overlay. So when you guys are asking questions to your lenders, you might want to ask, is this a company overlay or is this an agency guideline? Because if they don't accept it, somebody else might. So that's really important. To me, that's always important to tell you guys, hey, this is an overlay of ours, and somebody else might take it, but we're not going to, So. Any more questions on any product?
How about the from contract to closing question on the manufactured housing? What are you seeing?
Yeah. On our normal in-house product, it's going to be just regular 30 days. On our broker product, we usually ask for 45 days on the contract because we have to be mindful that we're sending this to an underwriter that's outside of our network. So we just want to make sure that there's not going to be any time delays. We don't know because we don't know their schedule. We're going to have a lot of less pull with them because they're not in our organization. So we just want to allow for enough time for them to have their turn times. And with broker channels, it's often going to be, hey, this week we're running a 5-day turn time, or this week we're running a 2-day turn time, or a 3-day turn time. So we're basically going to have to allow just a little bit more time for them to do their job the way that their organization does their turn times. So now you can always do on or before 45 days. So if the seller's okay with that wording on the contract, if we can close it faster, we will certainly close it faster. And
Actually, that's part of the pre-printed TAR purchase sale agreement, or unless mutually agreed upon in writing by the parties.
Yeah.
So it's there. So if things are moving quicker, buyer and seller can go forward and see if you all can process.
Absolutely.
So.
I mean, because that's, if your lender can do things a lot faster, and the properties, especially properties that are unoccupied, I'm pretty sure that seller might want to close it as soon as possible. So if we can close it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we would certainly love to do that for you guys. So, we can always have that.
When did this home ready come out?
About 3 months ago, 3.5 months ago, it got released. We got the guidelines 2 months before that, but it officially came out, and then just certain investors have been taking it up little by little. So it came out by the agency to be allowable, but then certain investors have to say, okay, I will go ahead and take up home ready as well. Now, we are a direct lender to Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie. So we're able to say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and take up this product before investors take this product. But we also are correspondent with investors. We have a line of investors that will take certain things that others might not. And then we have a broker channel that'll do things very outside of the box as well. So we're able to have all 3 channels available to us in order to be able to get things done faster. And, with everything that's available to us. All the products. So.
Could you just, off topic, but maybe these 3 might be interested if they haven't already, explain to them when you invited me for that designation for working with the veterans, if you would share what that is and how one, if they're interested, can go about getting that designation to.
About 2 years, what was it? September of 2015, we had, or 14, we had a designation for realtors to become certified as military specialists. So pretty much what that is we're putting together classes and showing you guys what are the things that you can do, not only with the home side of the purchase transaction, helping them get ready for it, but also be a friend and know how to work with a military person. There's going to be, especially somebody that's just coming back home, there's going to be a lot of differences in how they respond to certain wording or just certain aspects. And for you to be able to realize that and be able to pick up that, it's going to make a huge difference in your transaction. So the point of this class is to certify you and to teach you how to work with them on that aspect, and also to teach you things about the VA loan program that not a lot of realtors know that could be very beneficial for you to become, fluent in this product and to be able to serve our VA clients. So about getting that, we don't know. We're going to have a class this year. We're still trying to put it together, but there's classes all over the place. We recently had one in Georgia. A lot of people from Tennessee went to Georgia to take the class.
It was just a 1-day class.
It's just it gives you 3 hours of CE as well, so it's good for that, for you to use that for your education. We can always do a one-on-one. I mean, I can always teach it, but for you to be able to get the CE, it has to be given by an instructor.
I don't know if anybody is a vet in here, but certainly I would strongly encourage anybody that does have military experience to aspire to get that.
I mean, the more education that you can get, the more knowledge that you can get, the better realtor that you're going to be. So, if you can get some of these different designations, it's always good to have that under your belt.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.